Max Verstappen smashes all-time F1 record to claim pole position for the Italian Grand Prix as McLaren has a fight on its hands at Monza. From Racing News 365, my name is Nick Golding, and I'm delighted to be joined as always by lead editor Ian Parks. And Ian, we have got to start with the reigning world champion, the four-time world champion Max Verstappen, who claimed pole position at Monza, breaking the lap record at Monza of a 1 minute 18.792 was his lap for pole, but it was also broken the record for the highest average speed across a Formula 1 lap. Max averages speed of, and yes, this is accurate, 264.7 kilometers per hour, which for those who know miles per hour was 164.47. Max would probably call that simply lovely. However, I don't think it does it justice. It was at the very least simply sensational.
I think you've summed it up beautifully there, Nick. Like, we should never be surprised by what Max can achieve when we see performances like that. The only thing you could talk about really was the fact that he was 0.2 of a second down at the end of Friday practice. And yes, we know there are always caveats around Friday practice, tyres, fuel loads, engine modes, etc., etc. But even Helmut Marko, the Red Bull advisor, had turned around and said that looking at the Red Bull pace compared to the McLarens, he did feel that they had a bit to find in qualifying. However, he was not too concerned about the long run pace. Very, very happy about that. Well, quite clearly, they found that 0.2 of a second and then some in that car. Pierre Vacher, technical director at Red Bull, came out with some good stuff as well post-qualifying. As people may know, there was a new floor on that Red Bull. On Max Verstappen's side of the garage only, I hasten to add, Yuki Tsunoda didn't have that floor. Pierre Vacher turned around and said that the floor did more than they were expecting. What it has done, it's provided the aero load and balance that has basically been missing off that RB21 this season. And rather than this performance from Max today being a one-off, they are expecting it to carry them through the rest of the season, which is good news for us that like a little bit of intrigue rather than just a McLaren 1-2 as we predominantly had over the last few races. But overall, what an astonishing performance from Max Verstappen. Once again, that definitely deserves a tip of the cap because it was, as you say, simply sensational.
So McLaren quite clearly does have a fight on its hands. Should it want to win on Sunday, Lando Norris in second, Oscar Piastri in third. Lando actually quite lucky in the end in Q2 in particular. Skipped the chicane, the first chicane on his first lap in Q2. Had to do a couple more laps and on his final attempt did enough just about to make it to Q3. But in the end, a front row start for Lando, Oscar in P3. But Ian, as we have seen so many times at Monza, that run to turn one, the long run to turn one, anything can happen.
Yes, absolutely. That first chicane, as we know, has always lent itself to tremendous incidents over the years.
Chaos.
And chaos on occasion. And in all honesty, it would not surprise me if we saw something similar tomorrow on race day. The intriguing thing for me, Nick, is how Oscar Piastri plays this. He's got this 34-point lead now in the Constructors' Championship, built on the back, of course, what happened in Zandvoort just 6 days ago, when, of course, Lando Norris retired with 7 laps remaining due to a technical issue with his car, the team's first technical issue for 60 Grand Prix that's led to a retirement. How's he going to play it going into that first chicane now? He's going to have the tow from Max, who's going to be directly in front of him. Does he play it safe? Does he go for anything bold? Does he just sit back and just bide his time? It's going to be a really interesting one because, as you say, anything can happen. Chaos could unfold. Who knows? So, for Oscar Piastri, given this lead, given he knows that Lando has to be a little bit more gung-ho than he does, it's going to be a fascinating watch through that first chicane, that's for sure.
There is no Ferrari in the top 3. However, perhaps a good omen for the Tifosis that Charles Leclerc starts from 4th, which is, if I remember correctly, exactly where he started last year before going on to win the 2024 Italian Grand Prix. So not too bad for Charles Leclerc. Lewis qualified in 5th, but of course has a 5-place grid penalty. He will start from 10th. In the end, Ian, for Ferrari, not bad, not great, but particularly on Lewis's side of the garage, could have been far worse.
From Charles's perspective, let's start there
Yeah.
because he is the guy you mentioned first. He actually feels that on this occasion, you talked about his fourth to first run last year. He actually feels that on this occasion, Red Bull and McLaren have just got too much on the Ferrari, despite the improvements that we've seen over the course of this weekend and last weekend for the most part as well. Obviously, it turned out disastrously for Ferrari in the Dutch Grand Prix with both Charles and Lewis retiring, but nevertheless, up until that point, there were good signs, good omens, good positivity around Ferrari as well. That lent itself into this weekend. And again, for the most part, we've seen those signs continue to grow, just not quite there completely with regard to one lap pace, in particular around a circuit like this, where low downforce is so key. And that's what we've seen Max Verstappen and Red Bull extrapolate from that Red Bull on this occasion in that RB21, and to a lesser extent McLaren, because obviously they've been so dominant for these past few months now, few Grand Prix, but to find Max Verstappen ahead of them, that was quite a turn up for the book in their eyes, I'm sure. And for Lewis Hamilton, in all honesty, I got a feeling that fifth was the best that he could have hoped for. Maybe he might have got ahead of Charles with a better run, but for the most part, obviously, he did well enough to at least, again, continue to build the positivity on his side of garage, because he has said for these past two Grand Prix, he's noticed a change, he's noticed a difference, and he can see signs himself that things are slowly starting to improve, to get better. Of course, Lewis does have that 5-place grid penalty hanging over him from the Dutch Grand Prix last weekend, which means he starts in 10th position. From there, he is concerned, of course, about getting stuck in a DRS train and what progress he might be able to make through the race itself.
Yeah, an important start is going to be crucial to Lewis's Sunday afternoon. Before we carry on and discuss Mercedes, an important message to our Racing News 365 fans and viewers. This is your final opportunity to have a chance of winning an Ayrton Senna replica helmet, which we are giving away as part of a very special prize giveaway. All the information on how to enter is over at the Racing News 365.com Instagram page. There is a tagged post of all the info of how to enter, so be quick, because as soon as the checker flag waves on Sunday, the prize will conclude. Ian, let's move on to Mercedes, because George Russell inherits fifth on the grid with Lewis's demotion, Kimi Antonelli in sixth, and particularly for Kimi, a massive improvement when actually in Q1 had to deliver on his last lap, because he was initially in the Q1 drop zone. A massive boost for Kimi, given what he's been through just this weekend alone, thinking back to FP2.
He was under pressure, my word. Just when he needed a lap, he pulled it out to scrape through. And fair play to Kimi, because he was under considerable amount of pressure, not only coming into the Grand Prix weekend itself, quite naturally, but then, of course, throughout qualifying as well. Bearing in mind that, of course, he'd had another spin into the gravel during practice on Friday. This was all following on from everything that had occurred in the Dutch Grand Prix last weekend, spinning to the gravel there in practice. Then the crash into Charles Leclerc in the race itself. Then he was penalised for speeding in the pit lane as well. So he incurred 15 seconds worth of penalties. That dropped him out the points. So he came into this weekend in tremendous need of delivering. So at least he got into that top 10, and he was only marginally as well, fraction of a second just behind George Russell. So that will also give him encouragement, because George, for the most part, particularly over these last few months, ever since we've come into these European Grand Prix, George has been head and shoulders above Kimi, who has really struggled. Now it's all about producing a good race result for Kimi. So pressure not over yet, but at least he is in a decent position now in which to deliver on Sunday.
To quickly go through the provisional top 10 on the grid for the Italian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen is on pole, head of Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri in third, Leclerc in fourth, George Russell fifth, Kimi Antonelli in sixth, Gabriel Bortoletto, yes, you heard that right, in seventh, Fernando Alonso in eighth, Yuki Tsunoda in ninth, and Lewis Hamilton will start from 10th. Ian, lastly, but also very quickly, Gabriel Bortoletto, the star who is shining, it would seem, seventh on the grid. He's looking better and better as the season's gone on.
I know everybody's talking about Isaac Hadjar being the rookie of the year, but for me, what Gabriel Bortoletto is also doing is really running him close because he is in far inferior machinery, or that was certainly the case at the start of the season. But what Sauber has done to that car over the course of the year, upgrades introduced at midway point, and that's really, really helped that car progress. That's helped Gabriel build up his confidence in that car as well. And as you say, pull out these great performances over these past handful of races or so. Great comment from his teammate Nico Hulkenberg in the pen post qualifying. Nico out in Q2, and I asked Nico, what do you have to do now to try and match your teammate? Because Nico has been out qualified for a number of Grand Prix now compared to Gabby, and he just turned around and came out with the most wonderful quote. He just said, look, Gabby is doing a tremendous job right now. He said he's a machine. He's like a printer that never runs out of ink. He just keeps delivering lap after lap after lap, and he's absolutely one for the future. The way it's looking, Gabriel Bortoletto is going to run Isaac Hadjar very close, as I say, for that Rookie of the Year position. Unofficial title, of course. There is nothing handed out at the end of the season, but nevertheless, both of those guys doing a great job. Unfortunately for Isaac on this occasion, unable to get at it with Q1. So he's turned around and said that he's more than likely now going to start from the pit lane. There's going to be a number of changes made on his car to the Racing Bulls. So that means both Racing Bulls are going to be at the back of the pack by the time we head into that first chicane, because Liam Lawson qualified last. Not a great day for Racing Bulls overall, but a great day for Gabby Bortoletto again. Can he deliver now with another superb race result on Sunday?
Only time will tell. Way, and on that note, Ian, amazing stuff. As always, for those watching this video, it is on its way. More on that on the podcast on Monday. Ian, amazing stuff. As always, for those watching, please do smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win the Italian Grand Prix, and join Ian and I after the race on Sunday. See you later.
Take care. Thanks for watching as always, folks.